I'm joined now by, I have this whole introduction, I'm not going to do it. My friend Whoopi Goldberg. She's, she's an EGOT, yeah. She's the host of The View. Whoopi, I love you, you know that, right?
I do.
Whoopi, how you doing?
I'm good.
You look amazing.
Thank you.
What happened?
I lost a poop load of weight.
A human being?
2. Or 1.5 human beings, yeah. I had issues with my lower back a couple of years ago, and it got worse, progressively worse, and then they gave me all these, they did an operation, they fixed it, but it just wasn't doing what I needed it to do. So they started giving me steroids, and over the course of almost 2 years, I was probably weighed 300, close to 300 pounds when I did till. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you said you've lost it, and you're not ashamed of the weight.
No, Manjaro. It never would have happened without that.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
People shouldn't be shaming people who do Manjaro or Ozempic or any weight loss
Listen,
drug, right?
people do what they need to do.
Right.
So I have to, stay out of people's business.
Yeah.
Let them do what they need to do for what they need.
I asked my doctor about it, and my doctor said it's not a new drug. It's an old drug that we found out has, side effects, positive side effects for other things. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how they figured out Viagra. It was meant for something else, right?
Clearly. But it makes you wonder, doesn't it?
Let's talk about what we're here to talk about, and that's your book, Bits and
Yeah.
Pieces, Whoopi. I'm so proud of this book. I love it.
Thank you.
And I can relate to it because I've had loss in my life. As you know, my sister died recently, and that was really, really tough on me.
Yeah.
And when you were writing this, I know when I was writing my book, the grief all comes back.
See, I was having a hard time because I thought I was supposed to be feeling something, some type of way that I just never felt. And then a couple weeks ago, I discovered why it wasn't happening. It's because there was nothing left unsaid.
Really?
Yeah, nothing from my brother and I, or my mother and I.
Really?
Nothing. So I kept waiting for it, and I get bouts of where, a piece of music will bring me to tears or something, but that grief that sits on your neck and knocks you down, and you just eat yourself. And I didn't have any of that because it was always a known factor that before we got off the phone, I'd make sure she knew how I felt.
I'm glad you said that because that is honestly my worst fear, is losing my mom.
Yeah.
Because every single day I talk to her, she texts me. That's the first text when I get up in the morning.
Yeah.
She says, "Hey, my handsome baby, what are you doing today? How are you?" And then I respond back to her, and I can't imagine not getting that text.
Will she let you do FaceTime with her?
Yes.
Do FaceTime.
I do FaceTime.
Really important.
Yeah.
Like almost on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Almost on a daily basis, yeah. Because my brother, I'd sent my brother a phone, and I said, see if we can talk Ma into doing FaceTime. She's like, no, I don't want to be bothered with that. I'm not interested in that. I'm happy to be on the phone. And so she saw it. And then she could see me and I could see her. And it was like, oh, this is nice. And so I have bits and pieces of her from when my brother was trying to set the phone up. And he's standing and he says, okay, Ma, wave at Karen. And she goes, hello. So I have that, But all the other things, I always told her, because to me she was really the foundation for me. So, and losing my brother, because it was just the three of us, my mom, my brother, and me. So all the repository knowledge went with him. It was in his head. It was all in his head.
Not in yours.
Not in mine.
My sister's like that.
Yeah.
And it's just me, my mom, and my sister now.
Yeah.
And very close, but it's just, we have a small family, so I can relate to that.
Yeah.
By the way, when I text, or when I FaceTime my mom, sometimes her face is like half of her
Yeah.
head and whatever, because she doesn't quite know how to do it.
Yeah.
Is that where Bits and Pieces, the name of the book, came from? You have bits and pieces of your mom?
No, it came from bits and pieces of memory, because I can't tell you the year things happened. I only know that they did.
Yeah.
And so I would be able to say to him, hey, do you remember this, or is this something I dreamed up? And he said, no, 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 you wish you dreamed it up, but it actually did happen.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You said, I didn't know anything about feeling lost until after she died, meaning your mother. This is from Bits and Pieces on page 198. I wouldn't call it a crippling grief because it doesn't have a grip on me. It is more of a grief that stays way down in my toes. It doesn't feel dark. It's kind of a fog or numbness. I can't figure out what I'm supposed to feel now. I'm not raving angry, but I resent the fact that my mom and Clyde aren't here anymore.
Yeah.
And so when it comes up to through your toes, it's just in certain moments when you hear a piece of music or something.
Well, yeah, I was recently spent some time with Anderson Cooper with on his grief podcast, and he played a piece of music that I talked about in the book, that of hearing my mother's, because my mom used to sing around the house, and he played it, and I'm sitting there, and the tears are coming, and I look up, and he's crying too. It's because it's Tony Bennett, and he just left, and my mom loved it. It was a whole thing. It was a whole thing.
Anderson lost his brother,
yes,
like you, and he recently lost his mother
and his
as
mom,
well.
yeah.
So he can relate.
Yeah.
Yeah. I understand that because sometimes, my now husband will say, you just keep moving, like what's going on with you? And then in the middle of the night, I'll think of my sister, and
it comes up,
It comes, and I'll wake up crying, and then he's the only one who sees that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it comes up. What's your favorite memory from the book? You have your favorite memories that you?
Oh yeah. Listen, my favorite memory that I can still see. There are actually two. One is I talk about my mother and my brother and I going to Rockaway Beach, which, as I remember, used to have a tunnel before you got into Rockaway, the park. And I don't know what happened, but my brother gets through the tunnel, and my mother gets through the tunnel. Now, the tunnel is constantly, slowly going around, so you have to kind of walk so that you don't fall. And my mother was not thinking that, and then she fell in the thing. And she was laughing so hard that when we tried to go get her, we fell. And then now there are three of us trying to get up, but every time we try to get up, you dissolve into laughter. That was the crazy. And I just remember them having to turn the tunnel off so we could get out because nobody could move. It was just too gone. And talking about, all of the women who graced my world when my brother passed, because we did a couple of different memorials for him. And at every memorial, 2 or 3 or 3 or 4, women would come up and go, my Clyde and I, we're gonna get together, we're gonna move in together. And it's like, and it got to the point where my daughter said, why do you think this lady's walking up to us? I say, you know why she's walking up to us. That's it.
Clive had that many women?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna show you his visual, and then you'll see why. And you just thought, my God, how busy were you? Well, I'm shocked that I don't have more nephews or nieces. This is when he was talking to her, telling her to wave. So I took a picture of the video. So he's got the camera and the phone, and he's saying, he's shooting this little movie. And I have one of him as well.
He is fine.
Yeah. Apparently. Apparently. But, he was a really great guy. Like he would, you were the only person he was talking to.
You said nothing was left unsaid, right? Mm-hmm. I wish I had that. Because when 2 days before my sister passed, something was saying, call your sister, mm-hmm. and I got busy with work. Mm-hmm. And I said, Mom, I'm gonna call her this weekend. And I didn't call her.
Yeah.
And I don't think I'll ever forgive myself for that.
Well, you have to, because that isn't something, it's not like you knew what was coming and didn't call. It's not like you knew what was happening.
Yeah.
You know, I would have loved to have been on the phone with my brother while he was driving in California and say, hey, listen, you got a headache? You should probably go to the doctor or something. Because my mom died from an aneurysm as well. My brother did too. So, you know, I would have said, hey, maybe you should check that out, you know. But knowing him, he wouldn't have. He wouldn't have checked it out. And, you know, it would have happened anyway.
You're smiling when you talk about this.
Oh, yeah.
Does the humor help?
No, it just is funny because we're hard-headed. You know, we're hard-headed. Your instincts tell you things, but it doesn't tell you how to get out of what you have to do at the same time as telling you to do something else. You know, yeah, I wish it had been different, but it wasn't. But I'm okay because there was no doubt in his mind about how I felt.
This is going to sound like a weird question.
Maybe.
But so the day your mom passed, right, on the day your brother passed, did you feel, people say they've never felt more alone than when they said it's a feeling that you don't know. And when my sister passed, I know that feeling was because that was my big sister. Right? But when your mom passes, do you feel lost or lonely or?
I do feel lost because I'm just not used to not having them. Yeah. And I'm one of three. You know, I'm three. I'm number three
You're
of
number three of three.
You know, so I miss that. But, you know, I also know that this is part of what life is. Yeah. This is going to happen to everyone.
You made me think about it when you said you one of three, because in my book that I wrote before, I wrote about going to my sister's funeral. I'm driving. My mom is sitting in the passenger seat. My sister's in the back seat. But there was one person behind me because that was how we filled up our car. We had two in the back and two in the front. Yeah. And then going to her funeral, we got stuck in traffic and we were an hour late for my sister's funeral. And we were just sitting in the car and I said, you know what? We were supposed to slow down and why don't we sit here and talk about her and talk about everything. Do you remember going over this bridge and we just talked and we got to the funeral and we're like, that's okay. Yeah. She ain't going nowhere.
See, that's the thing. Yeah. You know, it's really us. Yeah. It's the ones that have been left behind that are sort of out of sorts with it, you know, because as much as we know that this is going to happen to everyone, you never really prepared for it, which is why I say, you know, whatever changes you make in your life, include the fact that to those people you love, you always let them know. You just always have to let them know. Do
you believe in an afterlife? And you know I'm going to ask you, do you believe you'll see them again?
Oh, yeah.
You do?
I see them now.
You do?
Yeah.
You talk to them?
I talk to them. I laugh with them mostly because they do stuff in my house. And I know who it is by what is being done. Things get moved. You know, you know that you put your glass here. I saw you put it there. Everybody saw you put it on the table. You come back and it's gone. And you say, okay, just you let somebody know where it is. And suddenly somebody will say, oh, it's in the living room. The glass is in the living room. It's like, okay, Clyde. Okay, yeah.
You're something else, Whoopi.
Well, listen, we are really lucky, Don. You know, we have loved ones. Not everybody's so lucky. And we have people who we loved, who loved us back. Some people, they don't get any of that, you know. So I always hope that when I say to people, the person that loved you, that's the person you need to always connect to. Stay connected. Yeah. You know.
Yeah. I need to bring my mom up because she won't. She's getting older. She hates getting on an airplane.
Well, then put her on a bus.
And you know how that is because you hate getting on airplanes.
I do, but you know.
You talk about when you say someone you're connected to. My mom, you know, growing up, I knew, you know, that I had the secret, right, about, and I just got married, but I don't know if she said she didn't have an idea, but I think she did growing up, and she never treated me any differently. When you talk about your mom and your experience with dyslexia, you did not know that you had it for a while.
No.
But when you figured it out, she didn't treat you any different. She started reading. She would read fairy tales to you.
Yeah. I mean, it's why I'm such a big fan of audiobooks, because I love being told a story. It just makes me happy. And so I don't watch TV. I listen to the books, and that gets me where I need to go.
That's how I sleep at night. I go to sleep listening to either a podcast or a book or something, or just a radio. I'll go on to Sirius LA and like get an old-time radio station and listen to it.
I like that.
So she knew you had dyslexia. And when did you figure it out?
She didn't know what it was.
No,
none of us knew what it was because there was no word for it. There was no language for what was wrong with me.
She said you just learned differently.
You learn differently. Because it was clear that I certainly was learning, because I could tell her what we had done, what the work was, and what I had to figure out all of it except for the math of it. I hate math. So, I mean, math is a wonderful thing, but it's not good for me. So they would say to her, well, she's just being lazy, she's not trying.
Applying herself.
She's not applying herself.
Yeah.
And my mother said, no, I think she is. And there's something else happening. But they had no words, they didn't know what to look for. You just said, I just see things differently.
When did you figure it out?
Probably when I was 14 or 15.
You did?
Yeah.
Did you get the glasses or anything, or you just knowing what it was?
No, my mom met someone at school, and they would talk about their kids. And my mother said, my daughter is told she's lazy, but she's not. She just seems to learn differently. And the man said, differently how? And they started talking. He said, I'd like to meet your daughter. I was like, okay. And he said, write down what you see. I'm going to write stuff on the board. You write down what you see, and I did. He said, okay, so that's an A. So whenever you see that, that's an A. Like, oh, okay. And then that's how I learned the alphabet. It didn't make it easier for me to read. It just helped me understand that there are words and stuff.
But it was a light switch, at least.
It was a lot of a light switch.
When your mom, I wonder what the effect on you was when your mom, because she had an emotional breakdown, right?
She had a nervous breakdown. That's a very nice way to put it. She had a
nervous breakdown. But that's what we used to call it back in the day, a nervous breakdown.
Yeah.
And how did that affect you?
Well, it taught me that things happen on the drop of a hat, that nothing is secure, that you have to always know how to get through life. You're going to have to learn this, because there are going to be times when things are going to disappear and you're going to be left going, okay, what do I do now? So that was good for me.
How old were you?
Probably 7 or 8.
Really? And then she had electroshock therapy. You said you'll never forgive your grandfather and your dad for allowing that to happen.
Yeah. Or any man who thought that was a good idea without having first experienced it.
When I read that, I know when I read that, I was like, now I know why Whoopi feels the way she feels about a woman's right, because they took her right away from her.
Yeah.
And 2 men deciding that she should have electroshock therapy.
That she should have electroshock therapy.
And she couldn't remember you after it?
Well, she did not, no, but Clyde and I did not know that. We had no idea she didn't know who we were. We didn't know, and had no idea for maybe 35 years because she never let on. And
wait, she never let on?
She never let on. She did this by herself. She walked this path by herself. When she came home, so here's what happened. I said to her once, we were in Malibu, and I said, Ma, I have to tell you thank you, because I know this wasn't the plan, but your illness sort of made the world very clear to me. And I think it was good for me to know that things can change like that you always have to be ready should a shift happen. And I said, you're going away for those 2 years is what did it for me. And it really sort of focused me. And she said, can I tell you a secret? And you know, when anybody says, can I tell you a secret, you know, something is coming. And she said to Clyde and I had no idea who you kids were when they brought me back. She said, I was so happy to be out of that place that if they said the sky was orange and I looked up and it was blue, I was going to say it was orange. Because I knew I never, ever, ever wanted to go back to a doctor's office. And she never did. She never went back to a doctor's office. But
she pretended to know who she was?
She pretended that she remembered everything. And she said she learned everything from us, from Clyde and I, including our names.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's an extraordinary woman.
She was an extraordinary woman. Yeah.
Did any of it ever come back to her before? None of it ever came back. She didn't remember anything before the electroshock. I
don't think so, because by the time we were talking about stuff, there wasn't much that she didn't know that we hadn't somehow, that she hadn't figured out, or someone had sort of led her in the direction. It was just crazy. But and the thing that broke my heart was I thought, Ma, you went through this by yourself. You never told anybody. And if I hadn't said to her, this really shifted my life around, I never would have heard it. She never would have told us.
Do you feel that it changed her love? Do you think I guess she loved you, but she couldn't remember. Did she have to learn to love you? I guess that's a better question. She had to learn or relearn.
Yeah, and I could not have been easy because but she chose to love me anyway.
That's extraordinary.
Yeah.
You said, for those of us who have lost our mom, our grief is going to be different from one another's. A lot of folks might go into a deep mourning right after losing their mom. For some of us, it takes a while to feel it. An anomaly about me is that it took a long time for her loss to really set in on me. I put the grief in a compartment because I am an efficient person. I know what you mean by that. I wanted to get shit done, do what needed to happen, and get through it. But that's how it works. I compartmentalize stuff. You do that because you have to.
Yeah.
You have no choice.
Well, it's just a lot. Now people want you to be able to function like a robot in a way. They want you to remember everything. I don't remember everything, and I'm not gonna pretend like I do. And if you walk up on me and I don't remember, it's not because I'm being disrespectful to you. It's just because there's a lot in the computer right now, and you gotta help me figure out what you want me to get.
Whoopi, I can't remember shit.
No.
I'm like, really? People say, you remember you did this to me in high school? And I'm like, no, I don't remember that. Come on, Don. I'm like, no, I don't remember that.
No.
I don't remember it.
Because high school, it's like when people come up and say lines from my movies, and they look at me and go, and I go, I don't know what that is. And they say, you said this in the movie, and I was like, oh, so it's the thing of, I don't watch my movies like that. So I don't have, a thing that allows me to remember all these great lines.
A movie diary, right, that you keep.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because as we were preparing for this, as I was doing this, I was talking about, I said because sometimes I'll send you a screenshot of me watching your movie.
Yes.
It's you and Alec Baldwin. Every weekend I turn on the TV and I'll flip through some movie channel and I'm like, it's either Whoopi or Alec. You guys are in everything.
I feel like I should be spending money like I was in everything.
I saw Soap Dish, my favorite.
It is.
I love one of my favorites.
One
I should
of my
say.
favorites.
And the
also.
cast is fantastic.
Yeah.
I don't know any lines from it, so I'm not going to go.
Thank you.
But do you think when you talk about your mom not remembering you and all of those things and all of the movies that you've been in, you had such success. Do you think, and the losses, did that help to contribute to the drug use?
Honey, those are hundreds of miles apart.
Really?
Yeah, hundreds of miles apart. That's like 25, 30 years ago. And I included it in there just to talk about where I was headed.
What meant the
why.
stuff that happened to you as a kid? Like your mom having none of that stuff?
I got high because I wanted to. I was interested in all those things.
I'm glad you said that.
Yeah.
Because people will say, you know, I had this trauma, I had that trauma, and maybe it's real, but you just say, I got high because I wanted to.
Well, that was me. That has always been the case. And that will probably always be the case if I can figure out how to get high again. Because my lungs don't let me smoke.
You can't smoke?
No.
And you won't. How long did you have? You said you had an issue specifically, and you write about it. So I'm not asking her something, anything that she hasn't.
30 years.
You did?
I had issues 30 years ago, because that 35 now.
But for how long did you?
Probably 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
You know, just when you think of everything that you could have possibly tried. Yeah. And you know, you get stupid for sometimes 6 months at a time, but every 20, 30 years. Like I had been straight as an arrow, didn't drink, didn't do anything, and then snapped. Say, okay, I'm gonna try this. Let's see what everybody's talking about. Woo. And then it was like, oh, okay, I've done this and I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like the way it's making me feel, and it's irritating me now, so I need to stop. And that was really what it took. I was in a hotel room
You write about
many
it in the
years
book.
ago, yeah.
You said that you had this, what you call a slap in the face moment, where you were in a hotel room and you said you were sitting in a closet putting cocaine up your nose.
Yeah.
And you didn't realize the maid came in. The housekeeping came in.
The housekeeping came in. She opened the closet door. I screamed, she screamed, we both screamed. And I thought, this is not good.
And you had
I'm sure.
coke all over your face. You said you looked in the mirror. You said she was staring at my face as I talk, and once she understood it was my room, she calmed down and left. I looked at myself in the mirror near the door and saw cocaine all over my face.
You know, and it's just like, these are not the memories I want to carry with me.
Cold turkey? You quit then?
Well, I wasn't, you know, cold turkey is what you do when you're on real heavy drugs. I just had to stop doing what I was doing. It was really on me, not like cigarettes.
Yeah.
Not like cigarettes. Cigarettes took more. But making a decision about, oh, this is not a good look. I don't like that I'm in a closet and I have a giant career. What am I doing? So I was like, yeah, we're not going to do that anymore.
And you stopped.
And I stopped. And I used to miss it. And then, 20, 30 years goes by and you think, all right, it was fine then,
But you can't smoke anymore? You can't do...
No.
You can't do weed? Can you do edibles?
I can do edibles, but I don't like edibles unless our company creates them, because then I know that the science is correct.
But for some reason, I can't really do edibles. I can, but I prefer now mushrooms.
Yeah.
I prefer to do mushrooms now.
Mushrooms are interesting. I think if you're ever thinking about doing something, just make sure you have an out for it. Because mushrooms are funny. They can do all kinds of things to your head, and you don't realize it for a while. Yeah. But that's why they do it now scientifically.
Yeah. Well, those I make sure I go to a legal place and get mushrooms. I never thought in a million years that I'd be talking to you about mushrooms and doing weed. Do you have a weed company?
Yes. Oh yeah.
You used to send me CBD. I forgot.
Yeah.
You would tell me when I had the back issues that
Yeah. Well, I didn't send it. I gave it.
You gave it? Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah, that's what you meant. Yeah, But you find the things that will help you and help you function. And I thought it would be drugs or something else, but no. It just is. It was too boring.
You don't strike me as someone who has an addictive personality.
No, but I make myself addicted. Like I have to have certain candy. Like I have to have that candy because that's the candy I'm addicted to.
Yeah.
And nothing else will do.
Yeah.
But what I am is really good about recognizing the balance. Do I want to do this knowing that this is all the things that follow it? Yeah. Or do I want to do this and maybe I'm not as, around, or maybe I'm not, but my life is more comfortable for me.
Do you ever get lonely?
I don't think so.
You know why I'm asking that? Because I just got married. And
Yes.
I remember before when you wrote the book about marriage was not for you.
Right.
I interviewed you then, and we talked about it just personally. And I said, yeah, I don't think marriage is for me. I don't think marriage is for me.
Yeah. Well, I knew that you had no idea.
So, but you don't like people in your house. You like living alone.
I don't mind people in my house. The truth of the matter is, I am fundamentally a selfish person. And I've found that because I have a wonderful kid and, and a son-in-law and 3 grandkids and 1 great-grand, that I don't have time for a whole lot of other people coming into my life, because, that's my kid and there's the family, and, so hit and runs are great. I don't mind those, but you can't spend the night.
Hit and run?
Mm-hmm.
They still happen?
Yeah, oh yeah. And you have to give yourself permission, because, you have this whole line of words that are stacked up in your head about what you are if you say a hit and run is where you want to be, and you don't want to be married. Oh, am I a whore? Am I this? Am I a terrible person because I don't want to be? And I never really thought about it. I just thought, well, I must be doing it wrong, because other people seem to be able to have figured it out. And what I didn't realize was that I had figured it out. I just was surprised by the fact that, I didn't really want it, but I like to hit and run.
Yeah.
And my mother said, well, maybe you should just throw a party from now on, not get married anymore.
It is what it is. It's not for everybody.
No.
Yeah.
No.
It's
And you
not
have
for
to,
everybody.
it requires a lot.
Yeah.
You have to really, it is really a give and take. And I'm in my life at this point, I don't really want that.
Yeah.
I want to, see you when I see you, and then you go.
I neglected to say, I should have said this a while ago, when I'm flipping through, I also see you on Star Trek.
Yes.
And I had been I never knew this story, that how you got this role. It was Guinan, right? Is that the?
Guinan.
Guinan.
Yeah.
I never knew that. You called Gene Roddenberry and said.
Well, no, it started with LeVar Burton, because LeVar came over to my house. We were having lunch. And I said, what are you up to? And he said, well, I just got this part in the new Star Trek. I said, ooh, tell them I want to be in it. And he said, really? I said, oh, yeah. I said, you don't understand. Nichelle Nichols was the very, very, very first stunningly beautiful black woman on network television, driving people crazy, to the point where, down south they had to say, well, they can't have this interracial kiss. It's not done.
With her and William Shatner.
With her and Shatner.
Uhura and, yeah.
Yes. And so
Captain Kirk.
I said, so tell them if they find a space, I'd love to come in from time to time. A year goes by, and I run into him. I said, did you ever tell them? He said, I told them. They didn't believe me. I said, do you have give me somebody's number to call. So he gave me the number. I called Gene Roddenberry's office. I said, my name is Whoopi Goldberg. I would like to be on your show. I love Star Trek. Huge fan. I love science fiction. And before your show, there was no idea that black people were going to live into the future. There was no film that had us in the future on the earth. It's all white people.
Yeah. And
a
week later, these are things she writes about in the book.
Yeah.
He said, let me go check.
Yeah.
And then a week later,
Yeah.
he called you back and said, you're right, I couldn't find anything.
Yeah, I couldn't
Come in,
find
I'm going to
anything.
write a
Yeah.
character. And you said yes.
And he did. He wrote, and she's based on Texas Guinan, who was a chanteuse and a woman who ran a great joint where she greeted customers by saying, hello, suckers. So
You know who else did that? You remember Diane Carroll?
Well, yeah.
She said she called up Aaron Spelling and said, I want to be the first black bitch on TV.
Yes. Because if you don't ask, you don't get.
That's a shame that you have to call and ask. I mean, but you do.
Well, you do, because people, here's what we always have to remember. People don't know what you want. They don't know what you are interested in doing. They only know sort of stuff out here about you. Yeah. So when you call and say, no, I'm interested in this, and they say, okay, and then you do it, and then they say to you, you know, I never thought you would come be part of this, because it's a TV show.
It was amazing, though. But you are groundbreaking.
But I'm actually not. I took my cues from all the folks that I saw on television when I was a kid. Yeah. You know, Robert Redford was on Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
You know, there were all of these people who did television because we all wanted to work.
Well, I watched Steve McQueen on, I forget, it was Wanted, Dead or Alive or something like that.
Wanted, Dead or Alive, yeah. I mean, think about it.
Clint Eastwood was on something very similar.
Rawhide.
Rawhide.
Yes.
Oh!
Yes, you know.
Yes. And you went from being a comedian to you were an actress first? You were, and then a comedian?
I never actually became a comedian.
But Whoopi, I see you used to have the towel and the special with the...
But that's an actor.
Okay, all right.
They didn't know really what to call it.
Yeah.
Because I guess they weren't used to it.
But then 17 years now, you have been a talk show host.
Yeah.
On the number one talk show.
Years.
It's been since 2007.
Wow.
And you put yourself, when you're doing that, I know I used to do 2 hours of live TV.
I know you did.
5 days a week. And when you're out there live, sometimes things come out of your mouth and you're like, I want to pull that back. It is a tightrope out there.
Well, it didn't used to be, but it is now. It's become a tightrope. You know, you're having to deal with everybody's everything, you know. For years and years, people would say, well, why can't I tell this joke? It's like, because it's not funny. It's not funny. You know, so just find another way to make your point. You know, just do it differently.
Do you love it, doing The View?
I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it.
You're going to hang around?
Oh, I got a contract. Yeah, I'm not going anywhere.
I love watching you on The View. I get news from The View, and I love the role that you're always the mediator, right? You're always look for the common sense part of the conversation.
Is that what they call what they call in the conversation?
And the moderation. Whoopi, I love you. I appreciate the advice. I appreciate you being a mentor. I appreciate you understanding what happened to me better than anybody else. So thank you for that.
Thank you, and thank you for being Don Lemon.
Thank you for being my friend. You know. And thank you for being Whoopi Goldberg. The book is called Bits and Pieces. Make sure you go buy my friend's book and read it. Thanks, Whoopi.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching The Don Lemon Show. Make sure you click on the image in the top right to subscribe to my channel and the thumbnail in the bottom right to watch more content from my show. And I'll see you next time.